Attention! Have you ever questioned whether everything you know about devotion to the saints is really correct? It's almost cliché to think that being devoted means merely repeating prayers and following traditions. However, true devotion is an often unexplored path filled with possibilities that can radically transform your spiritual life. It's easy to get lost in certain forms of devotion or popular practices that lead us nowhere, especially away from our ultimate goal, the salvation of our soul. This video serves as a genuine catechesis, and I want to share some valuable tips you can put into practice today that will truly enrich your spiritual life. You'll learn a secure and proven way to grow spiritually. Sadly, 99% of people hardly benefit from the graces of true devotion because they don't do what I'll teach in this video, which often results in disappointment, discouragement, and distance from God. Therefore, it is extremely important that you stay with me until the end of this video to understand how correct devotion can strengthen your faith and bring a greater understanding of God and His purpose for your life. Recently, while meditating on devotion to the saints, I recalled the early days of my walk in the church when I believed I should only pray to a saint when I needed something very important or very difficult to attain. I see that the vast majority of people share this somewhat selfish attitude toward devotion to the saints. Unfortunately, many approach the saints as mere miracle workers ready to fulfill all our requests. But this kind of attitude can be dangerous, preventing us from recognizing the richness true devotion can bring to our spiritual lives. Before we dive into our tips, I need to make two things crystal clear. Caution: devotion done incorrectly can indeed be very dangerous, and I'll explain why. Devotion is not superstition. There's a trap that many well-meaning people fall into, which can lead to idolatry. So we need to clarify some things. Devotion is an act of love and reverence, especially in a religious context, while superstition involves beliefs that associate certain actions with good or bad luck, diverting us from proper religious practices. The Catechism of the Catholic Church warns that superstition can compromise how we worship God, especially when we ascribe magical value to legitimate practices, such as prayers and sacramentals. This confusion between faith and superstition is risky since superstition is considered a sin against faith, harming our relationship with the true God. Moreover, it's identified as a form of idolatry because it attributes divine powers to objects or beings that are not God. This violates the first commandment of the Christian faith, to love God above all things, and it can open doors to negative influences in a person's life. For example, in some cultures like Brazil, many turn to saints like Saint Anthony of Padua for help, but there are those who turn his image upside down in the water to force him to find them a husband or wife. Now that's just silly, right? It's crucial not to fall into superstition, believing that objects or rituals can guarantee divine results on their own. We must remember that the saints play an important role as intercessors, but graces and miracles come solely from God, not from objects or rituals. If you want a video that goes deeper into the subject of superstition, let me know in the comments, and if there's enough interest, I'll do a video just on that topic, okay? Secondly, God is not your genie in a bottle. There are also those who think of God as a kind of genie ready to fulfill their wishes. Interestingly, these individuals often never make any acts of love toward God. They live their lives any way they like and only pray to Him to request some benefit. When they are not granted what they want, they rebel and throw tantrums like spoiled children. This happens because the vast majority of people do not know how to pray or ask properly when in prayer. I plan to post a video about prayer and how to learn to pray. So if you find this content valuable, it's crucial to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you stay updated on the channel's new content. Now, let's get to the valuable tips for true devotion. When we talk about saints, many people may imagine distant, almost unreachable figures. In reality, saints were just ordinary people who stood out for their actions and virtues. They faced challenges, made difficult decisions, and throughout their lives served as examples for us. For instance, St. Augustine went through confusing times before finding his true vocation, showing us that we all have the capacity for change and growth. The role of devotion in a person's life is so significant that it can be seen as a beacon in the darkness, guiding us whenever we lose our way. With all that said, let's move on to tip number 1. Read about the life of your patron saint. You might be thinking, really? I know it sounds obvious, but it's often the obvious that no one does. When discussing devotion to a saint, many people develop this attachment more out of tradition than genuine knowledge. It's curious to think that amid so many accounts of miracles and inspiring stories, there's a vast universe waiting to be explored. Knowing the life of a saint is fundamental to drawing closer to their spirituality. Understanding how they lived, the challenges they faced, and how they achieved holiness can offer invaluable lessons. Some people have found their life's purpose simply by reading about a saint, while others changed their lives and genuinely converted. Take the life of Saint Francis of Assisi, for example. Before embracing the religious life, he lived amidst luxury and wealth. His conversion led him to understand the importance of simplicity and love for others, teachings that resonate to this day. By studying his story, we're inspired to rethink our own priorities and how devotion to the saints can guide our steps. Imagine the depth of a prayer to saints we truly know. It becomes an intimate conversation, not just a generic request. Moreover, as we delve into the stories of saints like Saint Teresa of Avila, we realize that the path to holiness is filled with hard work and commitment to the love of our Lord. Each devotee can draw inspiration from their lives, not as unreachable models, but as examples that the quest for holiness is attainable. Transformation begins when we put into practice the devotion we feel, reflecting on the prayers we make, thus making them more powerful and sincere. Speaking of prayer, have you stopped to consider what the saints can teach us about this essential practice? And now we come to tip number 2. Deepen your understanding of what they teach about prayer. When we talk about prayer, it's interesting to reflect on how each saint practiced this fundamental act. Prayer isn't merely a moment of supplication, but a genuine dialogue with God. And different saints show us various ways to have intimacy with Him. While many of us pray generically and often don't know how to pray, the saints invite us to a deeper intimacy, demonstrating that it's essential to know to whom we're asking, in addition to recognizing the importance of prayer in our lives. By understanding how they dedicated themselves to prayer, we can transform our personal prayer practices. Consider Saint Teresa of Avila, who dedicated her life to meditation and deep prayer. Her writings provide a rich compendium of spirituality, teaching us to persevere in prayer, not merely as a ritual, but as a means of transformation. Every prayer should be a conscious act, a moment where we seek genuine intimacy with our Lord. For those looking to deepen this practice, reading her books, like The Way of Perfection, can be an excellent means of learning her techniques and reflections, applying them to our routine. Similarly, St. Vincent Delaware Paul regarded prayer as vital to his mission of helping the poor and needy. He frequently prayed amid his mission, showing that prayer isn't an isolated activity, but can and should be integrated into our daily lives. Nowadays, this might translate into small prayers before starting tasks, serving as reminders of God's presence in simple activities. By adopting this perspective, praying to the saints becomes more than just a practice of requests. It evolves into a vibrant way of cultivating gratitude and love for our neighbor in our spiritual lives. And while reflecting on the practice of prayer, have you considered how we can live out love for our neighbors in our daily lives? Tip number 3. Learn how the saints lived love for others. When we observe the lives of the saints, it quickly becomes apparent that love for others is one of the fundamental pillars of their existence. Each saint found their calling in serving their brothers and sisters, and this is an invaluable lesson for all of us to apply in our lives. Generosity and selfless service provide a clear path to embodying human dignity. Saint Therese, for instance, taught us that small acts of love are just as meaningful as grand gestures. Even a smile or a kind word can transform someone's day. Saint Francis of Assisi is another remarkable example of love for others. He not only preached about simplicity, but lived it, embracing the poor and the sick with genuine love. His actions invite us to look around. How many opportunities do we have daily to offer help to others? Whether through a simple gesture like lending an ear or actively participating in social actions. Devotion to the saints teaches us that serving is an act of gratitude and can be a great motivator to transform the lives of many around us. Every saint lived out their vocation by serving others as well. Whether in cloistered life, offering their lives to God in prayer for the church and the conversion of sinners like Saint Teresa of Avila, or by helping the poor like Saint Vincent Delaware Paul and Mother Teresa of Calcutta. There were also those who devoted themselves to study intellectual life, teaching doctrine, prayer, and catechesis, like St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Dominic Delaware Guzman, St. John Bosco, and many others who knew how to live holiness by doing good for others in various ways. You might identify with any of these ways of loving God by serving others. If you wish to be a true devotee of a saint, you need to know everything he or she teaches about living in grace. And more than that, put it into practice in your life as well. God wanted to leave us all these examples to show that it's possible to live all that Jesus taught us. We know that Jesus is the perfect model, but God also provided examples of ordinary men and women like us, so that no one can excuse themselves by saying, I tried to follow only Jesus, and I couldn't. It's tough, but for him, it was easy. He is God. With the saints, that excuse no longer stands. The saints successfully put into practice all of Christ's teachings in their lives, becoming true examples for us to follow. But now, the crucial question is, how will you apply this knowledge to your daily routine? What steps are you willing to take today to transform your life? Don't let the opportunity pass. True change begins with concrete actions. Think about it. Are you prepared to leave behind superficiality? Imagine the benefits of a holy life, filled with purpose and meaning. Are you ready to take that bold step? If you feel the flame of transformation ignited within you, give a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't miss out on new tips and catechesis that can guide you on this journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth. Let's move forward together, step by step, toward building a fuller life.